Imagine a small, quiet town where everyone knows each other, where trust is as common as the morning dew. Now picture a man, shy and unassuming, living among them, hiding a secret so dark it would haunt the world forever. His name was Edward, and his story is one of tragedy, horror, and a mind twisted by a lifetime of pain. This isn't just a tale of crime, it's a descent into a fractured soul, shaped by a childhood that never gave him a chance. What drove a man to commit acts so unthinkable they inspired nightmares on the silver screen? Let's unravel the chilling truth. Edward wasn't born a monster. No one is. He came into the world in a small Wisconsin town, in a family where love was scarce and fear was plenty. His father was a man drowning in liquor, a carpenter by trade but a drunk by habit. Money slipped through his fingers like water, spent on bottles that fueled his rage. When he wasn't stumbling home from the tavern, he was raising his fists, turning their home into a battlefield. Edward's mother, on the other hand, was a force of unyielding control. Steeped in rigid faith, she saw the world as a cesspool of sin, women as temptresses, and her role as a mother as a divine mission to shield her sons from it all. She didn't just preach, she carved her beliefs into their minds with the precision of a sculptor. In this house of chaos, Edward and his older brother grew up like prisoners. Their mother's voice was law, her rules absolute. She moved the family to a remote farm, far from the town's corruption, where the nearest neighbor was miles away. The land was harsh, mostly untamed marsh, with only a patch cleared for crops. It was less a home than a fortress, designed to keep the world out and her sons in. Afternoons were spent in her shadow, listening to her read from scriptures that painted a world of fire and judgment. She warned them of women's evils, of the devil lurking in every human heart. For Edward, shy and awkward, with a quiet voice and a wandering eye, she became his entire world, his protector, his guide, his only love. Life on that farm was a pressure cooker. Edward's father died when he was still young, his heart giving out under the weight of years of drinking. The loss left Edward, his brother, and their mother alone, her control tightening like a noose. But his brother was different, restless, defiant. He worked jobs away from the farm, saved money, and dreamed of a life beyond their mother's grip. He even dared to court a woman, a direct rebellion against her teachings. Whispers of his defiance reached Edward, who clung to his mother's every word. Then, one spring day, tragedy struck her, perhaps something darker. The brothers were burning brush on the farm when a fire raged out of control. When the smoke cleared, Edward's brother was gone. Searchers found his body, face down in the ashes, untouched by flames but marked with bruises. The official report said smoke inhalation, but those bruises told a different story. Was it an accident, or had Edward, fiercely loyal to his mother, silenced his brother's rebellion? The truth remains buried, but the whispers linger. With his brother gone, Edward had his mother to himself. But fate wasn't kind. A stroke left her frail, her body betraying her iron will. Edward, barely into his 30s, became her caregiver, tending to her every need, sleeping by her side, preserving her world as she had preserved his. Even bedridden, she ruled him, her words cutting deep, calling him weak, useless, nothing without her. When she suffered a second stroke and died, Edward's world shattered. He was alone, a man in his late 30s with no skills to navigate life, no friends to lean on, only the echo of her voice in his head. Her death wasn't just a loss, it was the end of everything he knew. What happened next is where the story turns from tragic to unthinkable. Edward sealed off his mother's rooms, leaving them untouched, a shrine to her memory. The rest of the farmhouse fell into ruin, trash piled high, dust coating every surface, a reflection of the chaos in his mind. But preserving her rooms wasn't enough. He needed her back, needed her presence. So, under the cover of night, he began visiting cemeteries, not to mourn, but to take. He chose graves carefully, targeting women who reminded him of her, middle-aged, respectable, pure in his eyes. He brought their remains home, crafting grotesque keepsakes, masks from their skin, lamps from their bones, a suit stitched together to wear in the dark, to become her, to feel her close again. It was his way of keeping her alive, a twisted tribute born from a mind unmoored by grief. If this story grips your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. It's a reminder of how far a broken mind can fall, and how the past can shape a monster. For years, Edward lived this double life. By day, he was the quiet handyman, fixing fences, babysitting for neighbors, his shy smile masking the horror at home. By night, he worked in his decaying farmhouse, surrounded by his creations. But the remains he took weren't enough. Old skin was brittle, hard to shape. He craved something fresher, something alive. That's when he crossed a line from desecration to murder. His first victim was a tavern owner, a woman in her 50s, warm and familiar, someone he'd seen often. He shot her, brought her body home, and added her to his collection. Her disappearance baffled the town, but Edward deflected suspicion with dark jokes, saying she was staying at his place. No one took him seriously. He was just odd, harmless, or so they thought. 3 years later, he struck again. A hardware store owner, a woman he'd watched for weeks, became his target. He planned it carefully, but this time, he slipped. Her son, returning from a hunting trip, found the store empty, a trail of blood leading out the back door. A receipt with Edward's name lay on the counter, a careless mistake. The police followed the trail to his farm, expecting to ask a few questions. What they found would scar them for life. Inside a shed, they discovered the woman's body, hung like a trophy, gutted and headless. The farmhouse was worse, a nightmare made real. Skulls turned into bowls, a chair draped in human skin, lampshades crafted from flesh, a belt made from unthinkable pieces. A sack held her severed head, nails driven through it for display. They found remains from over a dozen bodies, each piece a testament to Edward's obsession. The nation reeled as news spread, dubbing him names like the Ghoul and the Butcher. Planifield's 600 souls were shattered, their trust in their quiet neighbor destroyed. But what stunned everyone most was Edward's reaction. When questioned, he spoke calmly, almost puzzled. He described hanging heads like artwork, wearing his suit to feel close to his mother. He admitted to the murders, explaining he needed fresh skin because old remains wouldn't do. There was no guilt in his voice, no sense of wrong. To him, it was a craft, a way to hold on to her. He didn't understand why the world was horrified. Psychologists later pointed to his mother's teachings. Her vilification of the body, twisted in his mind into a perverse worship. He wasn't just a killer, he was a man lost in a reality no one else could comprehend. Edward was charged with murder but pleaded insanity. The court agreed he wasn't fit for trial. Not yet. He spent a decade in a hospital for the criminally insane, a model patient crafting with wood instead of skin. Polite but distant, his remorse questionable. By the late 1960s, he faced trial, was found guilty but insane, and returned to psychiatric care. His farmhouse, a grim landmark, burned down likely arson, a town desperate to erase its shame. Edward lived out his days in a hospital, dying quietly in his late 70s from lung cancer. His grave, beside his family's, was vandalized by those seeking macabre souvenirs. A final twist to his story. This isn't just a story of horror. It's a warning of what happens when a mind is shaped by cruelty and isolation. Edward's crimes shocked the world, inspiring tales that still haunt us. If his story moves you, share it. Subscribe to hear more stories that uncover the shadows of the human heart. Let's keep exploring the truths that shape us, for better or worse.